Hi, I'm Justin Barrett. I'm president of Blueprint 1543. I'm a former university professor and psychological scientist. And on this episode, I want to continue our series After 65. This is a series that in some ways was inspired by this book by Daniel Levitin, Successful Aging. He's a cognitive neuroscientist and is really concerned with giving us good, positive, practical advice for how we can take care of our minds, our brains, and our bodies as we get older. I've decided to extract some of his ideas and put them together with some others in this series that I'm calling After. And After, here's an acronym. The A stood for activity, F for fun. Those were the first two episodes, and now we're on T. T is for thinking. If we're going to keep our minds sharp, we got to keep thinking. That's the short version of it. And why do we need to keep our minds sharp? Because we're living longer than ever. Our bodies are still going. Medical advances have helped our bodies keep going. But no one wants the last 10 years of their life to be in sort of a shadowy, kind of shaky mental state, even if the body is okay, right? We're all seeing more and more of that. In decades, generations past, people often died suddenly of things like heart disease. It used to be a very important, it still is a very important killer of especially men, but it led to quick death. Now we've got long sort of period of aging, and we want that to be a long and healthy, both mentally and physically, period of our lives. And so we need to keep our minds, our brains really healthy and active. So we need to keep thinking. That's the short version. Well, what does that mean to keep thinking? Aren't we always thinking? Well, sure. But one of the things that elderly people often do is they start paying more attention to what happened in the past as opposed to thinking about the future. They start thinking, hey, I don't have a lot of future, but I've got a lot of past. And so that generates stories. And maybe the family and friends around me, they want to hear my stories about the past. And so I spend a lot of time recollecting. And interestingly, as we age, it becomes harder to form new memories, but we usually keep a hold of a lot of our long-term old memories. As sort of a school project, I was doing some interviews with my grandparents as they were getting older, and I was getting fantastic stories from their childhood, some that I'd never heard before. Well, that's a lot of fun. It was a way that we could interact with each other. And that, in some ways, is good for their minds, too, to exercise that recollection process. But it's easy to slip into doing pretty much all recollection, all what I've already learned, all that I've done in the past. And that leads to a certain stagnant kind of mental life. We need to use all of our brains, keep them all healthy and squishy and flexible as we age. And that means thinking about new things, not just about past things. So, what are some concrete steps you could do to exercise that part of your brain? Well, I've already hinted at some of those in the first two episodes in this series, and it has to do with trying new things, new experiences, going new places, because that helps us learn new stuff. And exercising our brain means learning new stuff, having those new experiences. A lot of elderly people spend a lot of time recollecting, reminiscing about the past. It's really important to be planning for the future. And even if you think, well, I don't have many years left, you do have time left. And in fact, you probably spend some time at least planning vacations or planning your next outing. It's easy to slip into the habit of just saying, oh, I'll let the tour company take care of all of that. Or, oh, it's an all-inclusive cruise. I'll just select from the menu of excursions. I encourage you to resist doing that before you've done your research. It can be very enjoyable, and it's good mental exercise to be actively involved in planning future events and activities. Now, I don't just mean big vacations and, tours and things like that, but even what are you going to be doing next week? What are you going to be doing this summer? What are you going to be doing next year? Start making concrete plans, even if you end up having to scuttle those plans and do something else. That whole process of doing the detailed logistical plannings of things in the future gives you investment in that future. It's going to make it more enjoyable when you get to that future, but it also just keeps your brain engaged in that future mindedness, which is really important as we age. If you are planning those bigger vacations, those bigger outings and things like that, say you're going on a cruise, you know the 6 ports of call, those different countries that cruise ship is going to hit, or whatever it is that you're doing, or it's a bus tour. Read up on those 6 different places. Find out for yourself, what are the things in those 6 different places that you think you would like to do? Or what are the things you would like to learn about? What's the background of that culture, its history, its local flavor, its foods, its religious practices, its political situation? Learn about those before you get there, so that then when you are faced with which excursion should I take, you are more informed about it, and you're more invested in it, and you have more to give and to get out of it. Heck, you might be able to actually school the tour guide because you'll know more than they do. It happens sometimes. I've seen it. So those are ways that we can be future-minded, looking forward and not just always looking to the past. Learn new information. I talked about learning about local history. There's always something to learn there about your local, state, regional, or national history. Go to more museums. Have more interactive engagements. Learn about the plants and animals in your local environment that maybe you're not aware of. Those are always changing too. Be part of a gardening group, or there are all these wonderful sorts of local support groups where you can learn about what grows well here, or what problems the neighbors are having with this predator or this pest or whatever it is that can keep us live and current, living in the present world and learning stuff now, as opposed to just thinking about the past and the good old days, or the bad old days, whatever they were. So learning lots of new things, experiencing lots of new things. A lot of folks have, and I was one of these, got excited about different kinds of brain puzzles and brain training regimens and so forth. Some of those are, the old paper and pencil type of thing that, you get in the weekend newspaper. Some of those are on our smartphones, they're apps. Sadly, the research seems to suggest most of those are okay, but they don't have lots of transferable kind of benefit outside of that specific domain. So some of the grander claims of some of the brain training programs that were the apps on our phones didn't pan out. Do they do something to your brain? Sure. But everything you do does something to your brain. So it's kind of a low bar. Doing Sudoku, for instance, is a good thing to do, but it doesn't make you smarter outside of Sudoku. It might keep your sort of basic mental skills at least active, but is it going to keep your brain from sort of declining? Well, not all by itself. It's a piece of the sorts of things you could do. Better than doing Sudoku every day for a year is to do Sudoku for a couple of months until you notice it starts getting kind of easy and routinized, and then shift to the crossword puzzles, and then do those for a few months. Or add those to the Sudoku. So do Sudoku and the crossword puzzles for a while. And then add the word searches. And then add the logic puzzles. You see what I'm getting at. Do something new. Keep shaking up the routine. Interestingly, there's a parallel with our physical activity as well. A lot of physical trainers would suggest that, yeah, it's good to start a regular exercise regimen, but that you've got to, at certain points, mix it up a little bit. For some reason, our bodies and our minds respond well to having to learn something new. Little tweaks being added now and then to keep things slightly off kilter. That's what keeps us sort of active, engaged in learning. So, are the brain puzzles good? Sure. Are they, going to lead to a revolutionary change in your mental states as you age? Well, probably not. But doing lots of different kinds of puzzles, lots of different kinds of games, lots of different kinds of mental activities will make a difference. You will be sharper. You will find it easier to keep learning things, to form new memories, to acquire new skills, to just have a richer life. So, Sudoku, not a bad thing, but it can't be the only thing. Try learning new board games, because those require new ways of thinking, new tactics, new skills, especially some of these games, card games, board games, that are a little bit challenging at first. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself. While you might not learn as quickly as you used to, and that's frustrating. We all feel that as we get older. We start noticing, gee, I don't pick things up as fast as I used to. Be patient. You probably have more time on your hands to invest. So go ahead and make that investment, because you're probably going to make up for the slower learning process with more depth of wisdom and strategic thinking that maybe you're not aware that you have, but it's in there from all of the years of life and wisdom. One of the things that we do know about the aging brain is that the speed of our connections in the neurons in our brain does slow down a little bit. At least one part of it is that the fatty tissue around the axons of our neuron, it's part of our neuron that sends signals, is degrading, it's thinning. And that fatty tissue actually helps speed signals. So are the signals slowing down? Yeah, they are slowing down. And there are other reasons why we do slow down a little bit with age. So we might, sometimes that's called our fluid or liquid intelligence. It does slow down a little bit with age, and we can feel it at a certain point. But our crystallized intelligence can be bigger and better than ever. That is our sort of total amassed knowledge, insights, and ability to make connections across all kinds of different topical spaces. That's our sort of our superpower as we get older. So let's rely on that. It requires us to be a little more patient with ourselves. Those young people are going to learn games faster than we are. Speed games are not going to be our winning thing. So more thoughtful, strategic, slower moving types of activities. That's where we can really shine as we get older. So try some of those out. And it's not just games, not just those kinds of activities, but trying all kinds of new things will exercise your mind. Reading, of course, is a wonderful thing. Yes, it gets harder. We need our reading glasses. We need stronger and stronger prescriptions, but it's a good kind of activity to keep our minds sharp, even if we're just reading short little essays as opposed to full-length books. But if you can do the full-length books, by all means, do it. Keep using your brain. Keep actively thinking. And of course, investing in your children and grandchildren is another way to be looking forward into the future and using your mind to think about those things. How can you be actively involved in what the kids are going to be, the kids here being your grandchildren or even great-grandchildren, what are they going to be doing next summer? How can you be actively involved in planning around that too? So by all means, when we're exercising our thinking as we age, yes, you're investing in learning new games, new activities, new skills, new content matter, having new experiences, but you're also thinking and planning for the future. Use that future mindedness as well so that you don't just get stuck in the past. Really important for us as we age to keep our brains nimble and fresh and have a lot of fun. For those of us who are Christ followers, a really great way to continue learning new stuff that we might even be motivated to do already is to just develop and enhance what you might call our biblical and theological literacy. That sounds like some heavy jargon, but what I mean is you probably are familiar with your Bible, but you've probably heard the same stuff from the same perspectives in the same ways, mostly Sunday morning sermons at a particular church denomination for an awful long time. It might be nice to freshen that up a little bit. And one way that I've tried to freshen it up, for instance, is to take advantage of the Bible Project's resources online. The Bible Project uses art to bring to life certain themes, messages, and the structure of the Bible so that it's easier to understand what it is that we're reading, so that when we are reading the Bible, we get more out of it and we can see it from different perspectives. So that's one thing I would encourage there. That can be a part of our lifelong learning, is to better learn these important scriptures that are dear to us in our lives. Those are some of my suggestions for the thinking part of this 5-part series, AFTER. We're on the T, thinking. Keep that thinking nimble. Keep it future-minded. Keep trying new things. Think new things. Try new things. Whether they're skills or content or doing places, experiences, just keep it fresh so that your brain stays nice and limber and squishy. Those are my suggestions for you today. As always, send me comments if you want clarification or you've got thoughts, you've got topics that you'd like to hear me talk about. Like, subscribe, share this with other folks, and come back for the last 2 episodes of this series after AFTER 65. Thank you very much. I'm Justin Barrett. Have a great day.